As soon as I realized it was me, I was like I got so terrified, just like struck with this fear. And I was like, what's going on? Am I dead? And then as soon as I started to think, am I dead? Like it felt like 3 dull butter knives being pierced through my heart, just like, and I was like, oh. I was like, what's going on here? And I was like, this is too much. I'm dying right now. Like, this pain is too much. And I wanted to leave my body. And right when my energy was about to leave my body, like right in the center of my forehead, I saw this rosebud that just blossomed open and just continually kept blossoming. It was like thousands of petals just continually blossoming. And this angel, or like this, it looked like an angel. It was this light being that had these wings came out. It's like, breathe. And I was like, what's going on? Am I dead? And it's like, no. This is your addiction to heroin and opiates dying, but it's the exact same thing that'll happen to you if you choose to use it willingly ever again.
So welcome back to the podcast. Today we have, I believe, the most special guest to date. A Dead Desire is an independent alternative rock project from Logan, Utah. It was created in April of 2015. The concept of A Dead Desire came to him during an ayahuasca ceremony in California. He had attended the ceremony with intention of ridding himself of a 13-year dependency on opiates. During the ceremony, he witnessed his own death and saw his dead, decaying body. A spirit guide informed him he had witnessed the death of his addiction, but it was also the exact same thing that would happen to him if he chose to use heroin or opiates willingly ever again. Therefore, the desire to use heroin and opiates was completely dead, aka a dead desire. He is currently the sole member of A Dead Desire. He's a songwriter, a guitarist, a bassist, a keyboardist, a percussionist, and a vocalist, as well as a cinematographer, film editor, director, and producer. He has released a full-length album titled Resurrecting the Mind, a single titled The Vanity, as well as the cover song of the Eurythmics, Here Comes the Rain Again. In 2017, A Dead Desire opened for the Rock Radio Convention and Awards in Las Vegas at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, which hosted artists and performances from Shallow Side, DED, All That Remains, Papa Roach, and Incubus. The Vanity, a single released in 2017, which contained a song called In My Mind, reached number 8 on the top 20 of the BBC Radio 1 network and held its place for over 3 months alongside Eminem, Ed Sheeran, Post Malone, and Enrique Iglesias. A Dead Desire released a cover song and music video, Here Comes the Rain Again, by the Eurythmics, which attracted a lot of attention and allowed him to be endorsed by Dirtbag Clothing and exposed to the press. His song, The Mantra, is also the theme song for our podcast here at the Bliss Seekers. Please help me welcome our very special guest, Moroni Silva.
Welcome, Brother Bear.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you, man. It's been, I know I met you back in June, right, at my first ceremony, and yeah, I still remember it was you had performed the mantra, around the fire, and I was just like, man, this guy's got some skills, right?
Oh, thank you, brother.
And I had asked you, I said, hey, man, can we use your song for our podcast? And you said, yeah. And I said, wow, that was awesome, right? So we really appreciate you, man.
No worries.
Yeah, you told me about the song. I haven't even met you yet, but I was listening for it for like a few months. And then I came to the ceremony, and there you were. And you performed it around the fire as well. And I had my eyes closed. Hatem was there. I was like, this is what it feels like live, It was powerful.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so that song has touched all of us, and it's a very special song. And but this is about you, right? And so we always like to start our podcast with getting to know the person, because I feel like when people get to know you, your story, where you come from, they can connect with you better.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So tell us about, about your story, like where you grew up. I know we talked about it. You live in Utah right now. And
yeah.
So how did you guys end up in Utah? Were you born and raised there?
Yeah, I was born in Logan, Utah, in a trailer where the Tool Liquidator used to be.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
That's long gone now. It's like a car sales lot.
Okay.
But I was born in Logan, and I was raised in Bear Lake, Idaho.
Okay.
For most of my life. I got in a huge car accident in my birthday and my freshman year in high school, which is what started the addiction to the opiates.
Oh, wow.
Because I was in the hospital for about 2 months. Then they sent me home with all these medications, and like 6 months afterwards, they're like, well, you don't need these anymore. And I was like, well, yeah, I do.
Yeah. It's crazy.
But,
those are not no joke.
Oh yeah, they're extremely addicting. And yeah, like it was really difficult because they didn't let me finish my finals that year, freshman year. So in order for me to graduate and not be a super senior, I had to move to Preston, Idaho, where they offered 7 credits a day per semester instead of just 5.
Okay.
And so I was able to graduate. I had to pass every single class, every single credit, and I did. But I graduated, and then from there I moved to Logan, where I was born, and stayed there for a little bit, only about a year, until I applied to the Conservatory of Recording Arts and Sciences in Phoenix and Tempe, Arizona.
Okay.
And so I graduated from there. That's where I learned how to do all the post-production work and the editing and the miking, just basically everything.
Yeah. So what made you decide to choose that major? Were you already into music, or?
Yeah, I was already writing a few of my own songs, and I knew that they had recording studios on the property, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna have an opportunity to record a few songs. So and on top of that, I was like, and if I don't make it in the music industry, I want to be with my music. I want to be in the music industry.
Gotcha.
So I wanted to learn how to become a producer and learn how to just do everything. Became Pro Tools certified and Smart SA certified for live sound. I did a lot of stuff that was really beneficial. But my internship kind of got messed up because they had scheduled me to work for a studio in Salt Lake. And when I had moved into my apartment and signed a lease and everything, and I was supposed to check in, I called and they're like, oh, I thought someone told you, but the owner's son had a friend who he gave the internship to.
Oh, wow.
And so I had just signed a lease, and I called the school. I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know if this has ever happened to any of you guys. They're like, nah, normally our internships, they get upheld.
My gosh.
So I had to scramble to find something that I could do to get my internship. And in Salt Lake, they found this rundown dollar theater where I was able to get a job as an usher, be the projectionist, and splicing old reels of film together
really?
and tape. And so I did an internship there, and I was able to graduate that, not even expecting to do the film thing.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I ended up passing, and I graduated from that. And that was 2007 when I started that.
Okay.
And then ever since then, I've always taken that knowledge with learning how to record, and I had a Roland VS 2400 multi-track automated little recording studio that I had bought, and I recorded a whole bunch of my own stuff, a whole bunch of songs of my own stuff, and I ended up, getting into. I got into a relationship when I was in Salt Lake, and that's kind of where everything took a turn in my life. Okay. Which was where...
a turn for the worse or a turn for the better?
Yeah, a turn for the worse. Okay. I was facing life plus 30 years in prison from falsified charges from West Valley City Police Department. They had charged me with 7 felonies and 5 misdemeanors on a domestic violence call. And so my ex-fiance had ran into the room and picked up my son, who was only 5 months old at the time, and came running outside and went outside with him. And he was only wearing a onesie. He didn't have a blanket on or a coat or anything. He has asthma, and it's in the middle of February. It's like, I ran outside, and she was in the parking lot, and I was begging her, just please go and put a coat on him. Then you can, come back outside. But he doesn't have anything. He's got asthma. You need to, come on, reason with me here. And then the police showed up. She's across the parking lot, and we were both. I had a prescription for oxycodone and Klonopin, and I had 2 tall boys that night, and I had been smoking cannabis, and I had taken the oxycodone. But she had been drinking, smoking, and taking not only the oxycodone but the Klonopin, which is you're not supposed to do.
What is that, by the way?
It's like a benzodiazepine. It's like in the same category as like Ativan and Xanax. And, but anyway, I had taken all these things away from her, and they were in my pocket when the police showed up. And so they searched me, and they found all the drugs on me.
They found the stash on you.
Yeah, I was about to become the head paralegal for the reinstate department at Lexington law firm.
Wow, how ironic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was.
You're from being the head paralegal to the head fugitive,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It was pretty unfortunate that what happened, but yeah. So I was facing. I had this really bad incident with the police where they had put the handcuffs on too tight.
Yeah.
And they didn't lock them. And when they put me in the back seat of the cop car, I was like 330 pounds at the time. And all my weight landed on the handcuffs and started digging into my skin. And I could feel them cutting my skin. And I told them, like, I tried repositioning myself, and I had put my foot on the window. And when I pushed, it, like, popped it out of the car door.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, oh, this son of a, and they, like, opened the door. And they grabbed me. They just pulled me out really fast. Like, they just hurried up and used their weight. And I felt like so... bam, onto the ground.
Oh my gosh.
And then I was like, what the crap? And they stood me up. And in order to loosen the handcuffs, you have to click it one time. And so when they clicked
it,
I flinched. And they're like, oh, he's resisting. And they threw me on the ground. 5 cops put their knees on my back. And one of them put their foot on my face with their boot.
My gosh.
And he twisted his heel. He's like, don't move. And I was like, okay, like, I didn't do anything. You guys didn't lock the handcuffs. Like, I'm not resisting. You guys are, like, totally abusing your power right now.
Right. That never happens,
and
right?
And they stood me up, and they threw me into the back of another cop car. And this time I was pissed. Like, and so I was on my back in the back of the cop car, and I reared up with all my weight and kicked as hard as I could, and I knocked the cop car door off the hinges. And
wow.
That's when they yanked me out, and they hog-tied me, and they threw me in the back of an ambulance. And the officer's last name, I don't know his first name, it was S, was the initial, but his last name was Bias.
Oh, wow.
Which was like, it sounds like a universal joke, and I'm like the punchline.
Right.
Like, and we get in the back of the ambulance, and right where I have degenerative disc disease on my L4 and L5, he puts his knee on there, and he digs in. And he spits on my face, and he calls me a spick. And I was like, he's like, I hope you die, you spick. And I was like, you can't treat me like this. Right. He's like, watch me. And after he had spit on me, he put the spit mask over me, it's like a little nylon screen net mask that they put on you.
Okay.
And they forced me to go to the hospital, and they had me handcuffed to a bed. And they're like, we need a urine sample. And I was like, well, I'm not going to give you one. Like, I don't give you consent to get a urine sample from me. And they forced a catheter in me while I was awake. Instead of, and then after they did the catheter, then they decided to give me what they called vitamin H, or the Halidol, or Halidin, whatever it is that they give to knock people out. Mm-hmm. And after they had done that to me, and they gave me the shots, as I was like fading out, I just heard the cops say, I'm going to nail this son of a with everything we can. Wow. And I woke up. It's kind of humiliating. I woke up handcuffed to a rail in a hospital gown in the jail, urinating, like, because they ripped the catheter out of me. And, like, I woke up urinating uncontrollably, and it hurt, like, really bad. And I, like, ended up zonking out because of the pain from that. And I woke up in all red, and they didn't put me in quarantine like they're supposed to. They're supposed to put you in quarantine and then GP, which is general population, but they put me straight in Supermax, which is 3 Bravo, it was terrible. Yeah. Like, I woke up, and I was like, where in the heck am I? And I, like, asked the guard, who was walking by, I was like, why am I in here? Like, can you give me a list of my charges? And he just, like, glared at me like,
Wow.
Like I was like a worthless human being. And he brings me this piece of paper and he slides it through the door. And on there, I see at the top, 1st-degree felony, aggravated kidnapping. And I'm like, what? Like,
Wow.
her name's on the lease?
Yeah.
She was across the parking lot when the police showed up. My son's a newborn, and he gets all of his mail to our address. What am I going to do? Send her to her room?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not kidnapping anybody here. They
Yeah.
charged me with that. They charged me with 6 third-degree felonies. 2 of them were damage to jail property, which were the cop cars. They charged me with 3rd-degree felony, domestic violence in the presence of a child. 3rd-degree felony, assault on a corrections officer. 3rd-degree felony for assault by a prisoner. And then they went on to like the misdemeanors, which I don't even remember. What the one of them was like possession of a controlled substance. Another one was like, I don't even remember. Like they were just really small charges that didn't even none of the stuff on that was real except for the domestic violence.
Right.
We did have a domestic dispute. We were arguing, but when they showed up, we were outside. She was across the parking lot. I wasn't kidnapping them.
Yeah.
It's my family.
Right.
And, like, it ended up being really... It was really traumatic because I didn't know what was going on the outside.
Right.
But apparently, my ex-fiance, like 2 days later, after realizing that I had my wallet on me when I got arrested and that she didn't have a job and I was taking care of my newborn baby and her son and paying all the bills, and I had my wallet, it's like, she was like, oh, I need to go to the jail and get him out. So
Oh, wow.
she puts my son in a stroller in the middle of February, in the middle of the day, and walks 3 blocks down to the jail, city blocks, and goes in there and talks to the clerk. She's like, my fiance, Moroni Silva, is in here. We had an argument the other night, and I said some things that weren't true. Is there any way that we can get him out? And she's like, honey, do you realize what you did? Like, you're not going to see him for a very long time. He's charged with these charges. He's being charged with them.
Wow.
My bail was $250,000 cash only. So it was like, I was stuck there. So I faced 6 months. I spent time at the ADC, which is worse than a federal prison. The building was designed to be a federal prison, but the cells were too small, so they made it the Metropolitan Jail, or the Adult Detention Complex. And it was, oh my gosh, it's terrible to talk about. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, but it molded me into who I am, really, like the whole thing, because you can't do anything as a felon when you get out, and the only option that I had was my music or to become a producer or something in the music industry. And I mean, I started writing my own songs and really trying to give it my all right after like that whole thing. I ended up, they didn't give me a deal until pre-trial.
Okay.
She got on the stand, and the stuff that she was saying was just like completely different and completely fabricated, completely different than was in the police report. The judge was sitting there looking through the pages as she's talking, like, is this the right case?
Oh, wow.
He looks at me, looks at her, and he puts his hand down like this. He's like,
Wow.
and I was like, nice, the judge is on my side, you know? So he's
That's
like,
good.
ma'am, the court has heard just about enough out of you.
Wow.
And then he
that's
calls
amazing.
the prosecuting attorney up, and he calls my attorney up, and he's like, we need to dismiss the charges against this young man and get him out of jail and arrest her for perjury. And the
Wow.
prosecuting attorney's like, oh, no, Your Honor, we can't do that because she suffers from borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia, bipolar stage 2 with rapid cycling, man, and all this different stuff. And he's like, so you're telling me that young gentleman has been in jail for the last 5 months off of something that she said? You know, like the whole thing. And the prosecutor is like, well, we can't drop this case, Your Honor. It would, we'd have a huge lawsuit or whatever on the state of Utah. So my attorney was also my attorney handling my DCFS case. Mm-hmm. And I ended up I talked to him about it, and so like during the little pre-trial, they sent me into a room where I could talk to my attorney, and he's like, you need to plead guilty to what they're going to offer you. And I was like, what are they going to offer me? And he's like, I'm going to fight to get you 6 months time served and get you out. Mm-hmm. But right now, the only thing they're offering you is to drop the first degree aggravated kidnapping down to second degree aggravated assault. You plead guilty to domestic violence in the presence of a child, assault by a prisoner, and damage to jail. And we'll drop all the other charges, and we'll give you 6 months time served, and then you'll do 3 years of parole. And I was like, okay, I'll take it.
Right, just anything to get out, right?
Yeah. Well, the reason why I took it is because he said that I've already been in jail for 5 months, and DCFS has a rule where at 8 months they're going to give the child back to the parent that's out and able.
Oh.
And so she was out and available, but I wasn't. And so I was like, no, I do not want that, because it would have been terrible for my son. Right. So I ended up pleading guilty, and they ended up they sentenced me to 30 years in prison, suspended upon successful completion of 3 years of probation and parole, and they gave me 6 months time served, and I had to complete like 12 classes and pay a fine of like $5,000, and it was this huge deal. And it sucked because like when I got my PSI, my pre-sentence investigation report back, I didn't get it until the 32nd day after I pled guilty. And when I read it, it said that they reached out to Officer S. Bias, but they couldn't contact him for further questioning because he no longer worked for the West Valley City Police Department.
Oh my gosh.
He got fired for falsifying charges for prostitution and selling drugs. So if I would have known that, I could have appealed my case and had the whole thing dropped.
Right.
Wow.
But it was 32 days, it's like I was 2 days late.
Yeah.
So it was really shafted on the whole thing. But I was able to get out. I got a job in Logan, and within like 2 months, I became the manager of the call floor. The one of the teams, the what was it called? RNC. It was the RNC campaign at the call assistant, and I was making over $17 an hour. And I was proving to the court and my probation officer was like, hey, get me off of this. So like at a half a year, my probation officer was like, I'm going to send in a release to get you off probation. You don't need to be on for 3 years. And I was like, thank you. He sent it in and the judge sent it back saying it's way too soon. I know he's doing really good, but wait at least a year. And so at the year, they let me off probation, and I was able to travel outside the state again and started doing my music again. But that's also when when I got out, I still went back to my medications, the oxycodone.
Yeah.
Because I had a dependency to it, and my insurance ran out when I was 25. And so my bottles of oxycodone went from being like $5 to $10 to being $330 for 30. And I was like,
jeez. Yeah,
there's no way I was going to do that. And I started having withdrawals, and a buddy of mine was like, yeah, I have some opium if you want to smoke it. And I was like, I'm willing to do anything to not feel like this right now. So we smoked it, and I bought a gram from him for like $100. And I was good for a while, but then I ran out, and the withdrawals were much worse than what I was feeling from the pills. And I went back to him. I was like, hey, man, can I get some more of that opium? And he's like, opium? And I was like, well, we were smoking. He's like, you mean the cheddar? And I was like, cheddar? And he's like, heroin.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, well, I guess.
So at that point, even know it's heroin?
No, at that point, it had been like a month, and I was like, I've already been doing it, so might as well. I don't want to feel like this. So, and that's how it's it's terrible.
Yeah, that's crazy that something that started from a car accident that you were given as a young kid by medical doctors caused this vicious spiral in your life with addiction and opiates, and then just having a friend or some acquaintance who basically just lied to you.
Yeah. No, I was just a customer, and I didn't know the guy for only like a year, if that. I didn't really know him that long. But at that point, I was just a steady, regular customer.
Mm-hmm. But it was all just you just trying to get rid of this horrible feeling from the withdrawals.
Oh yeah, I always there's always like a stigma about like addicts and stuff, and I never injected it. I couldn't stand needles, but I smoked it. I smoked it all the time. But my withdrawals were terrible, and I didn't want that stigma or like that. I didn't want anybody to know. Nobody knew that I was addicted to heroin, and did my best to conceal it. Because it's kind of embarrassing, you know what I mean? Like, It's like, there's a stigma to it. Like, oh, everybody who's addicted to heroin or meth, they're thieves, they're all this and they're all that. But I didn't want to even go down that route. Like, what I would do is I would get like a gram of it, and then I would split it into 0.1 grams, and I'd make like a little tiny dot, and each little 0.1 I would sell for $20. So I'd sell half of it, and I'd have $100, and I'd go and buy another gram, and I would still have a half gram for myself. So I did it that way, so I didn't have to steal or do anything shady or anything like that. It's still shady, dealing heroin.
Hey,
but,
you're a businessman.
Yeah, it's like I had to, and I wasn't trying to be business. I just didn't want to withdraw. That's like, I wouldn't wish that kind of pain on my worst enemy. Like that, it's like the most terrible thing I've ever been through.
Yeah, so you were having withdrawals from the medication that you were getting from the car accident.
Mm-hmm. Just slight withdrawals, though. It wasn't anything compared to like heroin withdrawal. Like
So,
heroin withdrawal was like cold and hot flashes with delirium tremors, where you like shake uncontrollably, and everywhere in your body where you've ever had an injury or you've bruised or broken a bone, it just completely aches. It like swells up. It like, and I always thought whenever I heard any of the addicts that I used to talk to or hang around, that whenever they were like, "Oh man, I'm in pain. I just need it," you know, I was like, no, whatever. But then, like, after 2 or 3 days, you really do start feeling like excruciating pain. Like we naturally produce an opiate in our systems that help us cope with pain. Whenever you bump your elbow, like these chemicals get released to help you cope with that. When you are taking heroin or something that's like an extreme amount of it, after 21 days, your brain's like, oh, we no longer need to produce this because we're getting a steadily supply that we don't need it anymore. So when you stop after that 21 days, your body, as your body is processing and getting out of all the drug out of your system, it still needs that opiate, that natural opiate. And it's like, and so your body's no longer producing it. So when you don't have anything, you are just suffering. Like,
So you basically have your body doesn't have anything naturally to deal with pain anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't cope with. You need that to help.
So it depletes you of your own natural ability to cope with pain. Do you know if there's anything that could help with the withdrawals at all besides taking heroin again? Have you guys found anything?
The only thing, so I had withdrawals from gabapentin really bad after in 2018 when I got in that head-on collision in Washington. I told them when I got there, I was like, I don't want any opiates. But they gave me opiates anyway.
Yeah, and that's all they do is prescribe medication.
Yeah, for the first 7 days, I was in like a near-death experience vision, and I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on here. I was like fighting for my life. Like the other stuff that was going on. It's so hard to try to explain. But I came to on the 7th night at midnight, and I remember looking at the clock and being like, whoa. Oh, and I looked at the board, and I was like, Moroni Silva. And right underneath it, every 3 hours, 10 milligrams of oxycodone. And I was like, I grabbed my freaking hospital mug. It was filled with ice and water, and I threw it, and it shattered all over the wall. And I was like, what the And I was like screaming, and the nurse came running in the room like, what's going on? And I was like, who the hell? Like, I was so mad. I had my arm was in a cast, and like I had a brace on my leg because I had a compound fracture in my femur, and I was trying to get up out of the bed. I was so mad. But I ended up coming off of that. As soon as I found out that I was on it, I stopped taking it for a day, but then I went into shock.
Yeah.
And my mom, I don't know if they had called her, if all of a sudden I was just on the phone with my mom. She's like, you need to take this. This isn't willingly. You have to. Otherwise, you're going to go into shock, and your body's not going to allow yourself to heal. She's like, this is different, son. You need to take this so you can heal. It's not like you're relapsing. This is for you.
So basically, the doctors convinced her
Yeah.
that's what you needed to do.
And so I started taking it, but I stopped taking it as frequently. I told them, like, hey, I was an opiate addict, and I don't want this. Like, cannabis is legal in the state of Washington. I just want cannabis. And we ended up debating about it for a little bit, but then, like, up until the 20th day that I was taking them, I had weaned down that period, that window, and on the 21st day I was like, hey, I don't want any more of that. And the doctors came in the room, like 3 different doctors came in the room to try to convince me to stay on the opiates, and I was like, no, like you can increase my gabapentin and you can help me get cannabis. And they're like, well, we're a federally funded hospital.
Oh,
and
man, that makes sense.
Where cannabis is federally illegal, if we were to administer it, recommend it, or prescribe it, we could lose our funding. And I was like, well, I'm telling you that I was a heroin addict, and I am extremely sensitive to opiates, and if I continue to take them willingly, then I will die. Mm-hmm. And they were like, they went and they talked, and they came back, and they're like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to allow you to use cannabis. You can have a friend or a family member bring it into you, and then you can go outside and use it. But we're not recommending it, just so you know, just so you're aware. But we're going to let this happen. We're going to allow you to do this, and we're going to increase your gabapentin.
What is gabapentin?
It's Neurontin, gabapentin. It's a nerve damage pill. It helps with nerve pain and nerve damage.
So you had a lot of nerve damage from the accident.
Yeah.
Oh, is this the second accident now?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So they had said the second one that I would never use my right arm again like normal, and that I had nerve damage in my right arm, and that I would never walk again. I would be in the wheelchair.
Wow. And that's the arm you play the guitar with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
You can see it's like from right here all the way to right there.
Wow.
So like this whole thing right here is metal. There's like a metal plate and like 16 screws or something like that in my arm.
Wow.
But I got their little thing and I pushed through all those exercises like it had said. I pushed through all the exercises like it had said on the paperwork that they had given me. But when I got out, I was like, oh, I don't need the gabapentin anymore. So I stopped. And then 3 days later, it hit me like a heroin withdrawal, but it was much worse than heroin. It was like, this time it was like the exact same thing as heroin, but added were suicidal thoughts that I could not control.
Wow.
And the sensation of my heart caving in and like imploding not being able to stop crying. Like it was brutal. Like it was excruciating. And they took me into the emergency room at the Instacare, and they're like, well, they took me to Instacare, and then they told me to Instacare, I was like, you need to take him to the hospital. Like, this is bad. And so my dad took me to the hospital, and he thought I was on something else. And I was like, I promise you, I'll do a drug test for you right now when we get to the hospital. I was like, I'm pretty sure this is withdrawal. I was like, I've had withdrawals before, and I haven't taken my gabapentin for 3 days. And so I went in, and I was having withdrawals. And the nurse was looking up stuff up on Google, and he ended up giving me Ativan to try to calm my anxiety. But I looked it up, and anybody who's going through gabapentin withdrawal, if you give them Ativan, it can kill them. I was like, that's not very smart.
Jesus. So the nurse at the hospital gave you something that could potentially kill you.
And they actually have to Google it. Yeah,
they Googled it first. It was like, well, you didn't Google a few more things to see if that would have a chemical reaction or possibly kill me?
Yeah. Or what about your training? Like maybe that's what you went to school for? Like you shouldn't kill your patients because you know what to do, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's your job. And so I went home and I researched it, and I ended up getting a razor and cutting. I was taking 1,200 milligrams of gabapentin every 6 hours. So it was like 36 milligram, 3,600 milligrams a day, which is a lot of gabapentin.
Sounds like it.
And so with the pills that I was taking, I ended up cutting off like a quarter of one of them and then taking like 1 3/4. And I did that for 2 or 3 days. And then I cut it down to 1 1/2, and then I did that for 3 days. Then I did it to 1 1/4, and I did that for 3 or 4 days. All the way until I was down to just a quarter pill. And that's how the best way to fight the withdrawal is to just taper down as much as possible, and once you're down to taking just a very little, just stop. And it's gonna be brutal for like at least 5 to 6 days, but after that, the withdrawals they'll stop being as intense. Your body will start producing more chemicals to help you balance yourself, and I mean it's extremely painful.
How did you stay strong with after the gabapentin?
Oh, after the gabapentin, well, just tapering off like that at a quarter of a pill. I just stopped after 3 or 4 days, and then
That was amazing though, because you kind of it seems like your whole life you've been very resourceful with all these adversities that have happened to you. Like you said, when you were doing heroin, you said, I'm not gonna steal and rob. I'm gonna figure out how to be able to afford this and get this, but not have to do it in a bad way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then now, you're addicted to this new substance that was given to you by a hospital, a federally funded hospital, by the way.
Yeah.
Like the government, right? And so a federally funded hospital was pumping you with this, what was it again?
Gabapentin.
And now you have this new addiction to a new, opiate or a substance. And so you're like, well, no one's really going to help me, so let me figure out how to help myself.
Oh yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Good job on standing your ground too.
Oh yeah. They weren't too happy when I was like, hey, I'm not taking your opiates. I'm not. They were like, for some reason they got 2 other doctors to come in the room and be like, hey, you need to be on this. It's like, actually I don't. I know what I'm talking about. But
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and it's crazy to think about that, because how many other people in this country or in the world out there are getting the same information by doctors, and they're just taking it, but they don't have the experience and the know-how that you had to be able to get yourself off of it. Now they're stuck to it, addicted, and probably will end up dying from it.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like when I was in the hospital, they came up to me, and these doctors, they're like, you have nerve damage in your right arm. You're never going to be able to play the guitar. You're never going to be able to extend your arm all the way.
Wow.
And so when they gave me the physical therapy things that I was healed enough to I needed to start moving my arm, I did everything that it said. And I would squeeze as hard as I could right here and flex and just keep on pushing that pain down. But so I'm a Reiki master. So I was doing Reiki on myself. I was doing Ho'oponopono, which is the Hawaiian healing modality where you say, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you.
I've heard about that.
And there's a lot that goes into it, just saying that for every conscious thought, we have millions of subconscious thoughts. So by you consciously saying that to yourself, like, I love you. And Ho'oponopono is 100% responsibility for everything that you attract into your circumstance.
Yeah.
So you say, I love you. And by saying these things in this order, you're saying to your subconscious, I love you. I'm sorry for attracting this circumstance that we're going through right now. Could you please forgive me for allowing this to happen, and thank you. Like you're thanking your subconscious child for being a part of you. Mm-hmm. And so I was doing Ho'oponopono, I was doing Reiki on myself, I was doing meditation, I was doing visualization. I was wheeling myself out in my wheelchair on the corner where there was a patch of grass, and I was digging my feet into the ground.
So connecting with the earth,
grounding out, yeah. And I was doing the chants of the so instead of like A-E-I-O-U, you do the soft sounds I-A-O-U. So it's like a you just continue doing that.
Yeah, it sounds like a chakra chant or something.
Yeah, it goes through all those different notes and frequencies. And as I was doing that, I was trying to do the symmetrical stretches where I was like trying to mimic, like, and I was able to finally, while chanting and focusing with the intention of sending that vibration to where I needed it to heal, where I needed it to heal, I was able to like extend my arms all the way. And I ended up healing so fast to the point that the doctors, they wanted to discharge me. At a month and a half, I was bearing weight on my leg.
Wow.
On crutches. And they wanted to discharge me with my guitar, my laptop, my crutches, a wheelchair, and they wanted to send me to a homeless shelter. It's like, okay. They're like, there was a specific word for it that they said, we can't have you. Oh man, it was a funny word. The word basically means just sitting here healing.
They can't have you showing other people that you can heal yourself.
Yeah,
right?
and so
Wow.
I was healing to the point where the skilled nursing facilities that they were requesting for me every week, I know at the beginning of the next week, I no longer needed those services. I was able to transfer by myself. I was able to now use the bathroom. I was able to do all these things all by myself. And so after a month and a half of them trying to get me into a skilled nursing facility, they were like, we're just going to discharge you.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay.
They're like, we can't make money off you anymore.
Yeah. And so I ended up moving all my stuff out of from the hospital into my buddy Piper's place for a few days. And I ended up only staying there for a few days and getting a hotel at a place called Crosslands, Tacoma. I think they changed the name of the place since I've been there, but they put me in room number 33 on the first floor, and I was right next to the laundromat.
What is 33? Does that mean something to you?
Huge.
What does it mean?
There's
for
a
you?
lot
Yeah.
of that's like it has to deal with the Illuminati and like the
really?
well, not just the Illuminati. I shouldn't have started with that one. I should have started with the Masonic Guild because there's 33 levels of there's 33 is the Grand Master Mason or whatever. But Christ was 33 years old when he was crucified. There's 33 vertebrae in our spine. There's 33 gods in the Vedic text. There's 33 is a huge number for all
That's
life.
weird because when I played baseball, my number was 33.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I had no idea. I sucked at baseball, but my number was 33. So
Hey, my life number is 6, so 3 plus 3 is 6.
there you go, right?
Heck yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you, how did you get into spirituality?
I've always been kind of had a belief in God. I fell away from the Mormon church when I was a little bit younger, but then when I was in jail, I read the Book of Mormon and the Bible, and everything that I read in the Bible and the Book of Mormon, there's a lot of stuff in there that's really profound. When I was reading it, there's like this burning sensation, like, whoa, this is intense.
Mm-hmm.
So you found some truth there somehow.
Oh yeah.
Is that the LDS church?
Yeah,
Okay.
But so this is what's weird. So my first ayahuasca ceremony really blew my mind. I was prompted in my first ceremony to get the Melchizedek priesthood, which is really weird the way it started. So
what's the Melchizedek priesthood?
Melchizedek was a guy of high standing in the Old Testament, where
Okay.
Abraham was in the desert and they came across Melchizedek and he actually praised him, and that's where the tithing started. Is 10%. They gave 10% to Melchizedek for everything that he had done. I'm kind of vague on it. I don't want to say something.
That's fine. It doesn't.
But yeah,
yeah.
it's like the Melchizedek priesthood. There's the Aaronic priesthood. So it's Aaron was Moses' brother. So the Aaronic priesthood is the priesthood that Aaron held, and then the Melchizedek priesthood is like what Abraham and Melchizedek had that they were able to pass down. And in this first ayahuasca ceremony, I guess I should just start.
Well, how did you get into ayahuasca first?
So
Who invited you?
It was my old guitarist from the first band that I was ever in, the Ravens Reel, my buddy Omar. I was playing an open mic at the Royal for Neil Middleton of the band Royal Bliss. I was supposed to be performing for him because a really important individual in the music industry asked him to fly in and meet me and listen to me play. And so he did, and that's where he gave me my producer's phone number. That's how I got in contact, and I recorded my first album, Resurrecting the Mind.
Yeah.
But at that open mic, when all that stuff was happening, my buddy was there, and he came out, and he was like, hey, I heard about what's going on. He's like, I was going to see if you wanted to go to this spiritual retreat at the end of the month. And I was like, what kind of spiritual retreat? And he's like, an ayahuasca ceremony. I was like, I'm down. Like, immediately, I was like, I already know what it is. Like, I've already seen it on Drugs Incorporated on Netflix. I know what it's about. I know it can help with opiate addiction. I was like, I'm all in. And so I ended up praying about it because I was really nervous, you know? Like,
yeah, I was the same way in the beginning. Yeah,
yeah, it's something to really put your heart and soul into, like trying to figure out if it's something you want to do. And I was praying, and it was like, I was like, would it be best if I stayed here? And there was like nothing. I was like, would it be better for my spiritual growth if I went? And it was like fire in the chest. Like, okay, I guess I gotta go. And so
that's awesome though, that you can actually connect to the source like that.
Yeah, that's like, I was given the Aaronic priesthood, and they like do the laying on of hands, and they give you with the Holy Ghost. Everyone's born with the Holy Spirit, but when they give you the priesthood and they give you the Holy Ghost, it's like a reinforcement. It's really weird to try to explain this because I don't even sound like, you know, like. Yeah.
So like who gives you the Holy Ghost? The LDS Church, or?
Yeah. So and I think there's other ways, like for instance, the laying on of hands. It's like the same thing with like Reiki. It's like it's like a level of spirituality that's given to you, and when you get to that spirit, that spirituality, you are more in tune with what's going on, and you have a higher sense of discernment of like, maybe I shouldn't do that because it feels wrong. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a heightened intuition, I guess, is like the only way I could really explain it. But I was praying about it, and I finally got a hold of his brother, Gio, and I was like, so what do I got to do, man? And he's like, told me the diet, told me everything I needed to do, and I was like, okay, I'm down. I'm so down. I did the 72-hour fast.
Oh, you did 72 hours?
72 hours.
They're like, we recommend for the best result, do 72-hour fast. You can do 48 hours, but for the best, it's 72, but it's a mandatory 24-hour fast. And so I wanted the most that I could get out of this ceremony. I did not want to be addicted to opiates or heroin anymore. So I did everything that I could to make it happen.
That's smart, though.
Oh, yeah. And I went there, and I guess I'll just tell you what happened. I'll just tell you my whole first ayahuasca ceremony.
So when was this? What your first ceremony?
April 25th, 2015.
Oh, so it's been 6 years now.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I've been to the. This will be my 32nd ceremony this month.
Wow.
Yeah, next month will be 33.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Yeah.
33.
Yeah. So
something big's happening next month.
Oh, yeah. Something huge is going to happen next month. But
so April 15th, 2015 or 16th?
April 25th, 2015.
25th. I don't know why I got 16th.
Yeah.
April 25th.
Yeah,
2015.
It was really crazy. I remember pulling up to Mount Shasta and just feeling the energy because I hadn't eaten. Like 3 days.
You're like sensitive to everything.
Yeah,
right?
and I pull up to the portal, and it's like it feels like my heart is like blossoming, like just like whoa, this is so crazy.
Was that the first time you ever fasted that long in your life?
Oh no, when I was in jail, I fasted for 7 days.
Oh, okay. So you had some experience fasting.
Yeah. And this time I was like, I was kind of exhausted and tired. I guess it was also from driving and stuff too. But we get to the portal, and Abuela Luna shows up, and she's going around with and smudging the entire portal. And I remember like just feeling so much love. Just first getting there, I was like, man, this is gonna be insane. And I end up going to the fire Friday night, or like it's like the sun is setting, and they're taking pictures around while we're around the campfire. Excuse me. And I remember looking over, and Abuela Luna, she could tell that I hadn't eaten, and she gives me a slice of orange.
Oh, she
She's
gave
like,
you some food?
She's like, you need to eat this, mijo. And I was like, okay. And I ate it, and it was so good. I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And when they had showed me the pictures, like after that weekend, when I was eating that orange, like the picture had like 300 glowing orbs, like all over the place in that picture. It was like, I've never seen a picture so like flooded with orbs. It was like, that's so crazy.
Was this before or after the ceremony?
This was the night before ceremony.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
and
it was already surrounding you.
yeah, and I was already feeling the medicine. Like, it was so weird to try to explain. Like, it was intense. But, so we took the medicine the next day. We did all the exercises. And every ceremony is so different. Like, completely different from the last one. And my first one, we went for this nature walk around the entire property line. And she had, like, stopped and said, find something that sticks out to you and hold it and say a prayer for it. And just meditate and be with yourself for a little bit. And so I had gone over and I had agua de Jamaica. You know how it's red? And there was
Jamaica.
I love agua de Jamaica.
Wait,
By
is
the
this
way,
the drink?
Yeah.
It's hibiscus.
Oh, I love that drink.
yeah.
I have flowers in my backyard.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I can make tea out of it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was holding a cup of that, and I like kneeled down next to this dead tree that had fallen, and it had this moss growing on it. And I remember like touching the tree, and when I touched the tree, I could like feel pain.
Wow.
And it was like it had already fallen, but it was like it still had some sort of energy in it, and I was
life
like,
form still.
yeah. And so I poured my agua de Jamaica on it, and it looked like blood on the wood, and I was like, man, like, you know, like whatever I can do, I know I'll be more conscious from now on when it comes to plants. And you know, I was just like communicating and just like praying and meditating. I did everything that she said that I like as perfectly as possible. And we take the medicine, and I remember like sitting down and looking at the sun, and I was sitting on I guess where it would be like the east side of the fire pit, and I was staring at that cedar tree in the sun, and I remember getting this weird feeling starting to come over me. And I was like, oh. So I closed my eyes, and right when I closed my eyes, I hear Abuela say, harmonica, harmonica. And she picks up the harmonica, and she's like, but you know how like a harmonica sounds. It's like a beautiful. I'm doing a terrible job of mimicking.
That was amazing.
That was pretty good though.
But she's doing that, and as she's doing that, I have my eyes closed, and I see what looks like waves, like the sound is like hitting my eyelids, and I can see like the sound waves, and it starts to form into all these separate strains and strands. And I was like, man, what is that? And they started to look like jellyfish. And you know how like when the sunset is like a beautiful peach color where it's like got the blue, the green, and the orange hue to it? Mm-hmm. It looked like that. And I was like, man, if it's this beautiful with my eyes closed, I wonder what it looks like with my eyes open. And I like opened my eyes, and like, you know how like when you're outside on a beautiful bright blue day and you close your eyes for 10 seconds and you open it and it's kind of like a weird color.
Eyes, not adjusted yet.
Yeah. It was like that, but like all these different colors that were like I had never seen before. It was vibrant, just like, it was like, whoa, like. And I remember her saying, don't get distracted by the colors. So I said, you know, thank you, and I don't need this right now. And I looked across the fire pit, and I saw this rock that was cut out, and it had like a little cave in. And I was looking at it, and it looked like there was like, so it looked like this, like half of a demon's face, and it was like, hey, come here. And I was like, I was like, no, thank you. I don't need you. Like, you know, I greatly appreciate your presence, but I'm not searching you right now, you know. And I was, because like Abuela Luna says, you know, like just thank them, you know, or whatever, and say, hey, you know, if you don't have a message for me or the group, you know, leave us in peace.
Yeah. What's in it for me?
Yeah. So I was like just kind of avoiding that, and I look down to my side and I see all these twigs and stuff, and like the dirt and pine cones and stuff, but they looked like snakes. It looked like just a pit of snakes that were breeding, and I was just like, whoa, like this really intense energy. And I was like,
So this is your first experience ever.
I was like, man, this is insane. Yeah, so I remember her saying to avoid the snakes, you know,
like, they're surrounding me.
Yeah, so I was like looking at these snakes and I was like, no, I don't need this right now, you know, I'm trying to find my spirit guide, sorry. You know.
Yeah.
And something's like over here is catching something's like over here is like moving, and it caught my attention, so I look from the snakes over and I see the cedar tree walking. Like it was like the trunk of it was like a tight skirt, and the roots were just moving really slowly, but it was walking, and I was like what? And I was like, what the hell? As soon as I thought that, the tree stopped and perked up, and the wind picked up, and it started to move, and it looked over, and it was like, oh, hey, come give me a hug. And it, like, the arm, like the branches extended, kind of like a Betty Boop cartoon.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, I'm going to give this tree a hug right now.
Is that the same tree that was fallen and the dead tree?
No.
Okay, different
This
one.
is the tree that's like right next to the fire pit.
I know that tree.
Yeah.
I love that tree.
Yeah, that tree is beautiful.
Yeah, I love
that's
that
the first one I saw. And then I was like, man, I want to give that tree a hug. And then right when I thought that, the wind picked up and it turned around and it was like, hey, he's here. Mm-hmm. And all the other trees were like, and they all had their own personality. So it's like, kind of like each individual pit bull has their own characteristics and their own personality. Each individual cedar tree has its own. It was the weirdest thing. It was like, man, this is mind-blowing right now.
That was a very, very strong connection you have.
Oh, yeah. It was insane. Like, it was... Man, just thinking about it, it's insane.
It sounds like one of those like cartoon movies, like Ice Age or something, like where like all of a sudden the trees become like live things.
Yeah.
They're talking to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was insane.
Yeah.
Like it.
The Jungle Book or something.
All the trees were like, "Hey, come here," and I was like, "There's too much going on right now." And then I remember looking down to my left, and I was like, oh my gosh. And there was this dead body with its head right here and its feet laid out that way, and I was like,
Did you recognize who?
Not right off the bat. And it was really weird because I remember I was like, is anybody else seeing this? And I turned around, and as soon as I turned around, there's this girl like 10 feet away from me, and she's like, I'm like, no one can see this dead body. This is for me. And I looked down, I was like, I had this slight thing. I was like, that might be me. And I was like, who is that? And I like leaned down.
You're like,
and when I leaned down, I like saw my face. It was like gray and like no,
lifeless.
Yeah, lifeless. And it was decomposing and falling off my skull. My clothes were tattered and withered and covered with dirt. And I felt like I was part of the earth, like I was eroding.
Yeah.
And I like, as soon as I realized it was me, I was like, like I got so terrified, just like struck with this fear. And I was like, what's going on? Am I dead? And then as soon as I started to think, am I dead? Like it felt like 3 dull butter knives being pierced through my heart, just like, and I was like, oh. I was like, what's going on here? And I was like, this is too much. I'm dying right now. Like, this pain is too much. And I wanted to leave my body. And right when my, like, energy was about to leave my body, like, right in the center of my forehead, I saw this rosebud that just blossomed open and just continually kept blossoming. It was, like, thousands of petals just continually blossoming. And this angel, or, like, this, it looked like an angel. It was this light being that had these wings came out. It's like, it's like, and I was like, what's going on? Am I dead? And it's like, no, this is your addiction to heroin and opiates dying, but it's the exact same thing that'll happen to you if you choose to use it willingly ever again.
Wow.
That was the spirit telling you?
Yeah. And I was like, oh, wow. I was like, this is insane. Like, it was so eye-opening. Like, I remember after seeing this dead body and feeling this, I started seeing the sacred geometry, and it looked like a grid around everybody. Everyone has their own little grid and like their own little Taurus, whatever that energy thing
Aura?
is. So there's like a thing called, I think it's like it's Taurus or something like that. It's like an energy field that it looks like a donut kind of around everybody, but it's like it's weird. It's like there's the aura too, but it's like if you look up, man. Well, I'll have to look it up a little bit later, but it's like Taurus or something like that. It's like an energy vortex where like it looks kind of like a donut around, and so the energy comes out from the top and comes in from the bottom. And so it's
So some people have sprinkles, some people are chocolate.
Yeah. Everyone had these things around them, and I was like, man, this is freaking unbelievable. I was like, I still haven't found my spirit guide. I look up. I saw that thing, but I didn't ask that if that was my spirit guide. I think that was like a guardian angel, because when I saw my spirit guide, I knew who he was. Like,
you're like, oh, there you are.
What did it look like?
So I'll get to this. So I looked up into the sky and I saw this big, huge rainbow ring around the sun, and all these dark clouds, like rain clouds, were gathering around on the inside of this ring, and I was like, man, that's beautiful. I was like, that looks like that might be the portal. This beautiful ring around it. And then I see this silhouette move in front of the sun. Like it looked like a shadow, like move in front of the sun. I was like, oh, this must be my spirit guide. I was like, well, who are you? And as soon as I said that, the sun looked like a mouth that opened up, and this black silhouette went, like got sucked up into the sun. And I was like, well, that wasn't my spirit guide. That's definitely not right. And then I looked from the sun down inside that ring, down to the bottom. The clouds had been forming, and it looked like there was this guy who was looking over his shoulder at me like this. And I was like, well, who are you? And as soon as I said that to him, his hair started to grow really long and white, like so bright white that it turned like a fluorescent baby blue. Mm-hmm. And he like turns around and he's like, I'm Gabriel. And he like lifts his arms up like this, and these wings come out, all these dark clouds, and he like takes off. And I was like, oh my gosh. And like all the black clouds literally followed him and left that circle. And then the sun started to open up like a mouth, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Gabriel is an angel, right?
Yeah, Archangel Gabriel.
Archangel.
And I was like, man, this is intense. And she said, I remember hearing Abuela Luna say that if you find a spirit animal or something, or your spirit guide opens its mouth, it's like an invitation to go in and do it. And so I was laying on my back at this point in ceremony. And so I remember I was laying on my back, and I reached up to the sun, and I was able to put my hands on the inside, and I like put myself up, and I pushed myself up out of it, and I was in this what looked like space, like this big dark black room, and I turned around, and the sun was like the size of a basketball, like glowing right in front of me, and I could see, like, from somebody else's point of view, the shading of the sun and the blackness behind me, and it was just like, whoa, like, I could just feel the heat coming off of it, and I was like, I wonder if I could give it a hug, and I like touched it, and it was like, whoa, and it was like just, oh man, this overwhelming warmth, and I was like, this is so beautiful. And I remember I started laughing hysterically, and I like started to feel weird in like the center of my back, and I was like, what the heck's going on here? And I like stand up, and I'm sitting there, I'm still laughing, and all of a sudden like just these wings freaking break out from my back, and I could see them. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And I was like, I could fly right now. I'm gonna fly. And it's like I was getting ready to take off, and it was like Abuela's face like appeared, and it was like a flashback. Don't you leave the ceremony because I can't go and get you from. And I was like, man.
You're like, I wanted to fly.
I was so bummed out. And then I remember my consciousness stepped outside of myself. It was the weirdest thing. Like it was over here and it's like, hey, I'm going to go fly. You stay here. And I was like, I'm so down. And I remember I was standing looking at the ground, and all of a sudden I see the ground just, I'm like, whoa. And I look up and I'm like above the clouds, and all of a sudden it's like, just take off. And I look over to my left, and there's this guy flying with me, and he's like, you're not supposed to be here. And I look over to the other side, and there's these two guys, they're like freaking out that I'm up there. Wow. And I'm like, whoa, like laughing, having a blast. And then I'm sitting there and my body starts laughing hysterically because I'm up there flying around, and I realize what I'm doing on the ground, which is staring at the ground like this, and my body's thirsty, and I'm like, I gotta get some water. Yeah. So I'm standing and I turn towards that little house or the little casita to go in and get some water, and I'm walking.
So you're actually moving now.
Yeah.
Your physical body's moving.
And I'm walking around that fire pit in front of the sink, and as I get to that little thing, I grab a cup, and as I get to that little thing to make a left to go get the water from the thing, I hear this voice like, turn around. And I turn around, and I see me flying in, and I hit the ground, and I skit, and all this dirt kicks up, and I hit that sink, and I stand up. And I have long hair, and I was fat with short hair at this time. I was 300 and something pounds. And it was like a me, but complete perfect posture, completely ripped. Just
superhero version.
He's wearing this armor and this cape, and I'm just blown away, and he stands up straight, and these wings go and fall into his back, and he walked into me. And then when he did, it was like, I was immediately out of breath, just whoa, what the heck's going on here? And then it was I was completely normal, I was completely out of ceremony. It was the weirdest.
That's how you came out of ceremony.
Yeah, it's the weirdest freaking thing. And one of the volunteers that was there, she was walking me to the bathroom afterwards, and I was like, you know that every single one of us here are angels, right? It's sitting there, I was like, you have no idea. It's all of us. Yeah. And she's all giggling about it. She's like, I know, I saw. It's oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was insane. I owe everything that I am to the portal and Abuela Luna.
That's awesome.
So powerful.
So I have a question. You said you had short hair back then.
Yeah.
Is that why you started growing your hair out long?
The CEO of Radio Contraband told me that I should start growing out my hair long.
Oh, okay.
He's like, I don't know if you know what kind of hair you got, but it's thick, and I think that if you had long hair, it would be amazing.
Okay.
You definitely look like a rock star with long hair.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Put on a leather jacket or something, fake leather.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you're wearing that leather in the Mantra video, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was pretty much a rock star.
So that's so that was crazy. So you basically, your angel portion of you said, I'm out.
Yeah, it's I'm not going to miss this opportunity. I'm going to take it. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I was totally fine with it. But yeah, dude, the ayahuasca, I've done, like I said, this month will be the 32nd ceremony, and I've done 4 other ceremonies other than the portal. I've done one up in Kent, Washington, one in Harriman, 2 others in Salt Lake, and they just don't compare, at all.
Right.
And I know that it has to do with intention behind it. Which is, it's unfortunate because I know there's a group of people, I'm not going to say any names or anything, but there's a group of people that are trying to bring down the portal and irresponsibly with their ignorance and what they're saying about it being completely shallow. And it just offends me because I'm coming from a point where I don't have an agenda. I'm not making money off of the portal or ceremony or anything like that. And when I come, I'm going to speak my truth. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with the portal. It's all a reflection of whatever these individuals are saying about it. That's a reflection of themselves.
Right.
For instance, Abuela Luna has never once said that she is a healer. She points out you are the healers. You take the medicine and it helps. I just hold the space. She just holds the space. She never claims to be a healer. I've been going to ceremony for 6 years, and I've seen volunteers come and go, and I've seen people go away and do their own thing and deliver the medicine and stuff. And Abuela Luna's always been cool with that.
Right.
But it's different when you have someone who wouldn't even be on this path if it wasn't for Abuela Luna, or had the opportunity to take the medicine if it wasn't for the portal. Mm-hmm. And then so to hear someone say that the portal is fake and it's all lies and that women aren't safe and all this, it's just like there's an agenda there. Mm-hmm. And you what I suggest is just listen to these people and take their advice. Use your eyes to see and your ears to hear, and you will immediately see that there's an irresponsible way that they're doing ceremony. For instance, light workers, anybody who claims to be a light worker should actually be more conscious about what they're doing, if you ask me. For instance, anyone who claims to be a light worker and administers combo or suggests combo to anybody else, or bufo or any other frog medicine. It's not medicine, it's poison. It's toxin.
Bufo's the poison from the poisonous frog.
Combo and bufo. There's different ways. There's a lot of different medicine, or what they call medicines, but it's all fear-based. Being a light worker, someone who's conscious should be able to see, hey, that is a sentient being, knowing that we're all connected. Especially if you've gone to ayahuasca ceremony, you've gotten to the point where you can see the sacred geometry and the life force connecting every living being. I've seen this, and I've had the opportunity to go to combo ceremonies. And ayahuasca came to me right before I was about to go to an ayahuasca ceremony. In my medicine, she said, this is an innocent, sentient being that uses this as a fight or flight response. It's something that is produced out of fear to defend itself from its predators. So for someone to be like, oh, God put those here for us to get in contact with spirit, that's a bunch of bullshit. Because
put what?
Frogs.
Okay,
The
got
bufo, combo, whatever. That's like the most ignorant thing that I've ever heard, because ayahuasca told me in ceremony that the plant medicines are here for that. Peyote, ayahuasca, psilocybin, and cannabis. The main ones are psilocybin, peyote, and ayahuasca.
Right.
What's a peyote again?
It's like the cactus. There's also San Pedro and stuff, but the main ones is peyote, ayahuasca, and
so peyote is
psilocybin.
from a cactus.
Yeah, it's like a little cactus button. Those are here for us to get in contact with spirit. So that's like me saying, oh, well, yeah, those frogs are put here. You take this substance from them that's produced out of fear, and you get in contact with spirit. Well, that's like saying, hey, did you know that the adrenaline gland of a human body produces a substance called adrenochrome, and then if you actually take it, you go into vision?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Have you seen the movie Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas?
A long time ago, yeah.
So there's a part in there where he gives Johnny Depp adrenochrome.
And that's naturally produced in our bodies.
In the movie, Johnny Depp says, I heard there's only one way for you to get this, and that's through the extraction from a live human body.
Wow.
And it's like, yeah, and the only way to take that, it kills the person. It's their adrenaline gland. So when you're striking fear into this person and you're taking this adrenaline gland out of a human being and killing them, are we put here for humans to get in contact with God for them sucking on our adrenaline glands?
Probably not.
No. Neither are these frogs that are in the forest or in the rainforest. They're not like, hey, I was put here. I'm gonna hop on your shoulder and let's get out of here. You know, And then I hear people like, well, there's nice ways to do it, and it's like, there's nice ways to scaring a frog. And he's like, yeah, well, they massage it underneath its tummy, and it's like, you're making it uncomfortable. It's starting to produce the toxin to shoot it at you so it can get away.
That's what combo is. That's the process of combo?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so anywhere you look it up on Google, never refers to it as a medicine. It's a poison. It's a toxin. And on Google it says that if you take this medicine, if you experience visuals or you're really into it for more than an hour and a half, you need to seek immediate medical attention because you're going to die. So this group of people that claim to be responsible light workers are going to Mount Shasta with combo and administering combo right before ayahuasca ceremony.
And combo's the poison from the frog.
Yeah.
The frog.
Okay.
And it's just like, there's a lot of stuff that was said about the portal that's just like, I'm a representative of the portal. I don't have anything to gain. I'm not making money from this. I'm not, there's nothing that I have to say, you know, like that is going to promote my agenda or anything.
Right.
When it boils down to it, whenever anyone is saying something out of spite towards someone else, it's a complete reflection of themselves.
Right.
And so when you're using your eyes to see and your ears to hear, and you see someone like this saying that, I don't know if it's about power or ego or money, and they're not looking at you in the eye, they're looking off, trying to find something that they could say to convince you, that's a reflection of themselves. They're saying, well, for me, it's about ego, money, and power. This is not speaking your truth. This is defending yourself. And if it's not about ego, you don't pound your chest and say, oh, it's about me. And I'm going to send Abuela Luna away from the astral plane where she's doing her healing work, because that's bullshit. Mm-hmm. Abuela Luna has not only blessed my life, but she's been doing ceremony for 10 years, and she's blessed the lives of thousands of people.
Right.
So when I hear someone like that say, like, that it's all a lie, it's all fake, and you're not safe at the portal, it's just like, it's hard not to get upset, but I always got to remember that as a light worker, you got to come from a place of forgiveness and be like, I just need to understand this person. But then when you dive into it, you start to see that they have their own agenda, which is reaching out to the people from the portal, slandering its name, and trying to get business from it.
Right.
So there's several people that I've taken to the portal within the last 3 years. There's a woman that is with this group that has reached out to all of them and said, you need to stop going to the portal with Abuela Luna because she's got a lot of ego right now. Mm-hmm. You need to come to these ceremonies. And it's like, every single one of them has reached out to me because I took them to the portal for the first time. They're like, what's going on with the portal? I don't know. I hadn't heard anything.
Yeah.
For 4 months, I didn't hear anything.
Right.
And then I was like, well, what the hell is going on at the portal? Because I hear that the medicine's being called different names and it's all about ego and there's no women are safe there. What the hell's going on? So, like normal, over the last 6 years, when people talk, the best thing to do is to use your own better judgment and your own discernment, go to the portal, and learn for yourself.
Right.
Oh, this is nothing but pure love and compassion for our healing process.
Right.
There's no like, oh, you need to come with me because I know how to do this better and blah, 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 and whatever it is. Like, it's offensive to me,
Right.
is what I'm getting at.
But you've already had 6 years of experience where it's changed your life. And
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's changed many other people's lives.
the
And I've
ones-
been there, and I had a great experience there. So
The ones that I did elsewhere were all done at night. And the energy behind it, it's like you see different people do different things. Abuela Luna is there for you. She has no personal agenda, no gain, no nothing. Mm-hmm. She is there to facilitate a healing space, which is a true blessing.
Right.
So when I hear someone slander that name, it's just like completely ignorant.
Right.
It's like you wouldn't even be anything if it wasn't for her in the first place. So
the way I look at it with this is when every time something is going to make a huge change or go against the grain, there's always going to be adversities, naysayers.
Oh, yeah.
It's always going to be like that, right? But the way I also look at it, it's not even about who is doing the ceremony. It's more about the medicine, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like churches, right? So, like, there's many churches and there's many different pastors.
But where this is like Ocklawaha Native American church, the code of ethics is like when someone's in the medicine, you don't talk to them. You don't make eye contact. That's why when you're a volunteer at the portal,
Right.
Abuela Luna tells you don't look them in the eye. No matter what you do not look them in the eye.
Okay.
Because you give your energy to them and they can bleed stuff onto you. And so other people do it way differently.
Okay.
So you have to be careful. I'm not saying that like don't go do ceremony with these people, don't go do the ceremony with these people. I'm coming from a place of experience saying I've done it for other places other than the portal. And the way that it's done at the portal is the most authentic, most respectful way that I've ever seen anybody handle the medicine. Mm-hmm. It's coming from a place of pure love. And so the whole misconception of people saying that, oh, she's got ego and she's calling the ayahuasca a different name. It's like, if you actually just listen to what she says, you'll understand that it makes complete sense. She said that last time I was there last month, she said that in one of her ceremonies, the medicine came to her and said, I greatly appreciate you calling me ayahuasca. But it's not just the ayahuasca vine. It's the chacruna leaf too, and you guys don't give that any credit.
Yeah. So I heard that ayahuasca is basically, is it like DMT, right?
No, so ayahuasca is the MAO inhibitor. The chacruna leaf.
Oh, that's the one that makes it last a very long time, right? Yeah.
So it makes it so your body absorbs it more and allows the DMT to have the effect that it does.
So the DMT comes from the other plant.
The chacruna leaf.
Okay.
That gives you the vision, right? Chacruna?
The chacruna, yeah.
Right.
So in this ceremony, the plant said, could you please stop calling me ayahuasca? Call me Aya Kruna. It's just taking both names and saying Aya Kruna. And where there's 42 names for ayahuasca already, calling it Aya Kruna, which is something more respectful, especially if the plant medicine's like, hey, could you please start pronouncing me this in your ceremonies?
Yeah, I agree with you, though, because I watched a documentary that said how they make not even ayahuasca. I don't know where ayahuasca became the dominant, the brew, right? They said the ayahuasca needs the other part of the plant or it doesn't have the same thing. Like it's like water. What is it, chacruna?
Yeah, the chacruna,
and the
water, and the ayahuasca vine. So that's the crazy thing is there's so many millions of different plant species in the Amazon, and somehow a vine and a leaf, somehow they were thought to put these two specific ones and blend them up together, crunch them with sticks, and boil it into a brew. I mean, the chances of this happening are so ridiculously slim that, like, the only way that it could possibly happen is if, people communicate with plants, which is what this doctor talked about.
I believe people in thousands of years ago, or our ancestors that use this as a medicine, they were more connected.
Oh, yeah.
To Mother Nature, to the earth. So they could literally, like you said, maybe even talk to it. Not like physically talking to it.
Well, my buddy AJ told me about this book that he read about a doctor who had heard about ayahuasca. He never even went to the Amazon to discover. He was doing other research. He went and he got lost and found this tribe. And this woman, came up and said, I could tell you everything about your life. And the guy was like, I don't believe anything. He's like a Harvard professor and a doctor. And she pulls the roots up out of this little plant, puts the roots in his hand, has him hold it for a little bit. Then she grabs the plant and the roots and tells him his entire life story.
That's crazy.
Things that she would never know.
That's awesome.
And he's like, how did you know that? And she's like, well, believe it or not, we still pass along the tradition of what we used to do thousands of years ago. We communicate with the plants. This is how we discovered ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And so they took him to this village and he did ayahuasca I don't know how many times, 30-something times. Jeez. He spent some time there. Yeah. But when my buddy was telling me this, he's like, this guy went from being a strict science professor, non-believer in God, to being completely open to spirituality and plant medicine and just everything because of this one experience. And that's what people...
Yeah. So I'm a very commonsensical person, right? Western medicine has been around, what? 50, 60, 70, 100 years maybe, right?
Oh, yeah.
Plant medicine has been around thousands, millions of years, right?
Oh, yeah.
So how can we say that the stuff that's been around, way longer than Western, nothing against Western medicine. I mean, I prefer holistic.
Oh, yeah.
There's a place for Western medicine. Like if I break my leg, I don't want to rub a plant on it and hope it gets better. You know what I mean?
You need surgery.
Yeah, I want some surgery or a cast, right? But when it comes to healing in your body and connection, and I believe there's a lot more to do with what the plants and the ancients used to do than than modern. Does
Oh,
that
yeah.
make sense?
Oh, yeah,
It just
for
makes
sure.
common sense. Like, you know, like
For sure.
before they had this, what did people do? You know, like,
Yeah.
They go out in nature and
Yeah.
get plants.
And speaking
you know.
of what you were saying about the roots, right? So I have a acupuncture healer who was trained in China and in France.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and he makes these special herbal teas that I don't know what the heck he puts in it, but they heal. Like, well, he says we don't heal. He says we help your body release the chi, and then your body heals itself.
Yeah.
So this is what Eastern medicine believes, right? They believe if they can find the issue soon, like early, they can cure it, or your body can cure itself. If it's in the middle, like you took a long time, your body can cure itself, but it's going to take a while. If it's too late, like you've had this issue for a long, long time, they can't cure it, but they can make you live like a normal life, right? So I had major car accidents too. I have L4, L5 herniated disc, whiplash in my neck. My neck is almost straight. Your neck is supposed to be curved. My neck's almost like this, right?
No way.
Yeah, so I have like nerve damage in my eye. I had issues with my eyes sometimes. So bottom line, I was like in my late 20s, early 30s. I felt like I was 80. Like it took me a while to get out of bed. I'd have to like hold on to something. Like I'm like in my 20s, right? And I remember having to get out of bed and hold on to a chair because my back would literally be like fused. It wouldn't move, you know? And I was always miserable, in pain. And I remember my mom, she had really bad anemia. Her iron counts were down to 5. And she asked the doctor, she goes, look, Western medicine was pumping her with pills, giving her constipation, like iron pills, just messing her up even more. And she was like pale. She had no energy. She's like, I can't live like this. Like,
Oh, yeah.
she's like, I need something. She's like, my mom's funny because the doctor was Asian. She's like, you're Asian. Don't you know something different, right? But, not like in a, but I guess just my mom. She's straight up, right? And she's like, well, I know this acupuncture guy. Give him a call. He might be able to help you, right? So he made these special herbal teas, and my mom drank them. 2 months later, my mom's iron counts went from single digits to 50 and then 60. And the doctors were like, what are you doing? Like, how is this doing this, right? And it was just herbal teas. So my mom's like, why don't you try him, right? And I'm like, I'll try anything, And so I went with him, and it's funny. So remember how you said the lady put the plants in his hand?
Yeah.
So he just went like this. He took my pulse, and he said, stick your tongue out. And he said, you have this, you have this, you have this, you have this. And no one had ever told him. And I was like, how did you know that, right? He could tell from my circulation and from the color of my tongue what ailments I had, right?
No way.
Yeah, so he's like, you know what? I'm going to give you these teas. They're going to taste bad, but they're going to be good for you. And you're going to feel like, he said, little vibrations in every area of your injured. So I had an injury in my wrist. I had injuries in my back. 2 weeks later, I started feeling like little vibrations, like a little buzz inside of it. He's like, that's the tea unblocking your chi. And then,
no way.
Yeah, and then 2 months later, my pain is gone 95%. I am like a new person. Like I'm able to work out again. Like I'm able to like not wake up in a bad mood. And that's lasted literally probably the last 13 years or probably 12 to 13 years. Yeah. To this day, because of some tea, because some herbs that he cooked up.
Thank you for tuning in. That was the end of part 1. Part 2 comes out next Monday, 9 a.m. Please stay tuned.
Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so that YouTube will let you know when the next one comes out.